Well, hello again, and welcome to episode 31, titled How Long Are We Going to Live? The worst name ever for a national sports team franchise, and some indications of issues from my early report cards. While speaking with my financial people recently, they always bring up that one fact that we tend to overlook, the how long are we going to live factor. Now, I'm currently 67, will be 68 in just a few days. And they tell you that if you made it to 65 with no major health factors, then the chances are favorable that you will live to 80 or older. But I came up with an idea. Why not set a date for your own demise? Brilliant, right? Personally, I think it makes sense, and it's an efficient way to calculate your spending according to how much you stashed away. So my wife and I have come up with a time period of about 2 to 3 months at a certain age that we will die. We haven't decided yet how we will die, but I think that this is a practical and efficient way to avoid the inevitable. I should have spent more money, traveled more, enjoyed ourselves, and the now it's too late thingy. And we could apply for a patent on this concept too. And they claim that you don't come up with good ideas when you get older. The former Washington Redskins team in the National Football League decided that they needed to change their name since the term Redskins is considered derogatory, which I understand fully. But they came up with the brilliant and creative idea to change their name to the Washington Football Team after being called the Redskins for 90 years. So this was the name you came up with after all these years, the Washington Football Team? They couldn't think of anything else? You had so many possibilities to name your franchise. We know that you're a damn football team. You're in the NFL. Every team in the NFL is a football team. That's why they call it the National Football League. Come on, man. Even the Native American Indians would have been like, what? I just don't know how that passed the vote for this ridiculous name among the board of directors, or whoever it was. Really weak and lame. Recently, while looking over some old pictures of our childhood, etc., I ran into our report cards from when I was very young. Not sure why my mom decided to save them, but now I'm kind of glad she did. So I noticed 3 different report cards that were, let's say, interesting, since they expose as they can some potential issues and concerns. So for my 7th grade report card, I got a D in social studies with the 4, 5, 6, and 10 codes, which indicate specifically what the problem is. And the explanation for each is as follows. 4 means frequently unprepared, 5 means careless, 6 means disorderly and troublesome, and 10 means capable of doing better work. The story behind this was that I recalled this teacher, who was a wonderful teacher in person, who told my mother that I was a bit too clownish and disruptive, but she liked me very much and told my mother that I could go far in life. I actually remember this. You never forget these moments in life. We also had a substitute teacher who, despite not being an experienced teacher in the public school system, knew how to handle unruly 13-year-olds. So me and Tommy and the class clowns in our 7th grade decided to place our desks on top of our heads while Mr. Vendetti walked out of the classroom. And as he returned to the classroom, he noticed our shenanigans and very calmly said, "Mr. DeMedios and Mr. Angeloni, please place your desks on the floor now, or I'm going to have the both of you spend the entire class with the desks over your head." And me and Tommy were like, good point. So we set the desks down and we got back to our schooling. And Mr. Vendetti was a cool character, and he never mentioned it again. Now for my 2nd grade report card, and this was 1961-62, I couldn't help but notice that I had mostly A's and a few B's for the entire year. And there was a logical reason for this. The teacher I had was a drop-dead gorgeous young woman, so warm with beautiful eyes and hair, and I think she might have surmised I had a thing for her. I know this is kind of hard to relate when you think that you're only 8 years old, but I guess that I just worked hard to impress her. I probably barked at any students who got out of line with her, hey, let's give Mrs. Giordano a break here. She's trying to educate us. And lastly, for my 4th grade report card, and this was my favorite one, my teacher gave me a C for citizenship for the year, and that's what they called it 60 years ago, and added an explanation code for a 10, which was not listed on the report card as an option. She had to write it in, and her explanation for the new 10 code was talkative. To think that my fourth grade teacher had to create a new code for my behavior was actually pretty cool. And to be honest, I don't remember much from that year. It was a hell of a long time ago. This was 1963, 64. And I love these people with the t-shirts that state, "These colors don't run," with the pictures of our flag. And yeah, they don't run because most of them are too fat or lazy to run. I know some people won't like that one. We have officially reached the apex of humanity now. And the final result is not what anyone would thought it would be. For the people on this planet who live comfortably, they or we have become Epicureans, bon vivants, foodies, connoisseurs, and gastronomists. There are some positives to this culture. The food we eat is better and healthier than ever. For those who make the right choices, more and more food is locally grown, and food recipes have grown exponentially over the years, over the decades. The concern is this: the apex that I speak of is only available for approximately 30% of humanity. The real goal should be to increase that 30% to 90 to 100%, if possible. But it's a long road ahead for us. Pew Research, and that's spelled P-E-W, did a study about 10 years ago and found that humanity, only 71% of humanity lives on less than $10 a day. The gap between the people who live comfortably and those who don't is way out of line. And as I was recently walking through our local aquarium recently, I noticed that some fish are hermaphrodites, which means they have both sexual organs, which seems to be an ingenious trait to acquire over the centuries. Just imagine, you can just sit there and say to any approaching partners, "Take your pick, I go either way." And then can't say to anyone anymore, "I wonder what the other team feels like." One of the COVID-19 masks that I wear is from Doctors Without Borders. So when I was out recently, someone asked me if I was a doctor, and I told them that I was, and I added that I was a brain surgeon, to which my wife replied, "You're not a doctor, and you're certainly not a brain surgeon, but you do need to have brain surgery ASAP." And the person who inquired sided with my wife, of course. She should. I just recently recalled a situation from my bizarre Amtrak days back in the 70s and 80s. And I crossed my heart and swear to die, this is a true story. I could not make this up, as unbelievable and incomprehensible as it seems. This employee at Amtrak that we knew somehow came up with the ingenious idea to propose. And by propose, I mean asking two different women to marry him at the same time, and with two separate rings, of course. Unfortunately, I never found out what happened after he made his proposal, since he and I got separated in some job transfers, but I would have loved to find out what happened. That's some crazy shit. And as I continue to watch Seinfeld episodes every now and then, they're on WPIX Channel 11 in New York every Monday through Friday from 11 p to 12 midnight, and I still laugh out loud at some of their banal scenarios. What a great show that was. But what I find disconcerting is how Frank and Estelle Costanza, George Costanza's parents, now remind me of my wife, Mary, and myself. This is what happens when you've been together for 37 years, and I'll say no more for right now. See you soon.